All right, so we did everything 45, 45, 90. Now these are everything. See how you see a 60 degrees here? You see, well, there's a lot of 60 degrees. I don't know why. And then there's a 30 degrees. That means we are not doing the ratio 1, 1, rad 2. Now we're doing the ratio here. So there's two of them. So I'm actually going to put it over here and rewrite it. So do me a favor and copy it the same. I'm going to take this, put it over here, 30, 60, rad 3, 1, 2. That's this one. And then this one is, instead of 30 being on top, 60, 30. So now it's 1, rad 3, 2. These 30, 60, 90 triangles, let me title it now. I will do always in blue, okay? It's the same kind of thing, but it's definitely a lot more complex. So let's look here. Oops, let me zoom it out a little bit. For some reason, it's not clear in the screen, so I'm actually going to tear this off so that we make sure it stays in the screen. Now I can zoom in a little bit, okay? So here's the deal. Let's look at number 11. So when we look at number 11, we have two options. There's a 60 degree and a 30 degree one. So you can either memorize the things, but what I want you to see is this. If you look across from the 30, it's the 1. If you look across from the 30, it's the 1. The long side is a 2. And whatever's across from the 60 is rad 3. Whatever's across from the 60 is rad 3. So the way I memorize it is I always go to the 30 degrees. What's across from the 30 degrees? 1. What's the long side? 2. So that means this has to be rad 3. Okay? And now I do the same ratio game that I did before. 1 times 3 is 3. So that means this is also times 3, and this is also times 3. So this means m equals 6, and 3 times rad 3 is 3 rad 3. Okay? If you want to memorize that when the 60 is on top, it goes 1 rad 3, 2, great. But I would prefer whatever's across from the 30 is the 1. Whatever the long side is, hypotenuse, is a 2, and the other side's rad 3. So let's look at number 12. If I look at number 12, 60, 30. Who's across from the 30? 1. Who's the long side? 2. That means this is rad 3. This is the side I don't know. 2 times what number is 6? Times 3. That means if that's times 3, this is times 3, and this is times 3. And move this out of the way. That means that y equals 3, because 3 times 1 is 3. And 3 rad 3 is 3 rad 3. Let's go to the next one. The shape is turned around, but it's okay. What's across from the 30? 1. What's the long side? Long side is the one that doesn't touch that. 2. That means this is rad 3. Now I do the ratio. This times what gives you that? Well, there's a 9 there. So that means it's times 9. Times 9 times 9. 2 times 9 is 18. 1 times 9 is 9. Let's go to the next one. 60, 30. Who's across from the 30? 1. Who's the long side? 2. That means this is rad 3. 2 times what is 12? 6. So this is also times 6, and this is also times 6. 1 times 6, 6. 6 times rad 3, 6 rad 3. Okay? Let's go to the next one. This time they gave us 30. That means this is 60. Who's across from the 30? 1. Who's the long side that's not touching that? 2. That means this is rad 3. All right. It's getting to a more difficult one. So this is when we start with rad 3 and we have to go all the way to 3 rad 6. So if you look here, if I multiplied by rad 2, rad 3 times rad 2 is rad 6. But I still need the 3. So it's 3 rad 2, because 3 and then rad 6. So that means I go times 3 rad 2 times 3 rad 2. So 1 times 3 rad 2 is 3 rad 2. And then 2 times 3 rad 2 is 6 rad 2. Okay, so let's put a little circle around that, and let's go to the next one. That's 60, that's 30. What's across from the 30? 1. What's the long side? 2, so that's rad 3. So I have to go on this one from a 2 to a 12 rad 2. So if I look, 2 times 6 is 12. But then I don't have the rad 2. Oh, so the ratio is 6 rad 2, because 2 times 6, 12, rad 2. So if that means I go times 6 rad 2 times 6 rad 2. All right, 1 times 6 rad 2 is 6 rad 2. These are both square roots, multiply them. So square root of 3 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 6, and then there's a 6. That's my u. All right, next one, 30, 60. What's across from a 30? 1. What's the long side? 2. What does that leave you? Rad 3. So this one's a little bit easier. So 1 times 2 rad 3 is 2 rad 3. So times 2 rad 3 times 2 rad 3. So let's do this. A is 4 rad 3. This one is 2 rad 9, but the square root of 9 is 3 times 2 is 6. So let me do that again. Rad 3 times rad 3 is rad 9. The square root of 9 is 3. I can actually do that one. And 2 times 3 is 6. Let's go to the next one. 30, 60. What's across from the 30? 1. What's the long side? 2. What does that mean this is? Rad 3. So let's see. They told me this one. Ooh, this is a mean one. I start with a rad 3 and I have to get to a 6. This is a square root and this isn't. Remember on the previous page when you multiplied a square root times itself, it becomes that answer. Because the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 9, which is 3. So I'm at a 3, but I still have to get to a 6, so it's 2 rad 3. Let me show you. If I go 2 rad 3 times rad 3, that's rad 9, which is 3, times 2, which is 6, which is what I want. Okay? So that means now I go times 2 rad 3 and times 2 rad 3. So 1 times 2 rad 3 is 2 rad 3. Oops. B equals 2 times 2 rad 3 is 4 rad 3. Number times number, not times the square root. It's different. Let's go to the last two. That's 60. That's 30. What's across from the 30? 1. What's the long side? 2. Rad 3. Ooh, I like this one. 2 times 4 is 8. So times 4 times 4. 1 times 4 is 4. 4 times rad 3 is 4 rad 3. They are not the same. Don't multiply them and give me 12. Last one. That's 60. That's 30. What's across from the 30? 1. What's the long side? 2. Rad 3. Okay. This has a rad 3 and this has a rad 3. So the only thing it doesn't have is a 4. So times 4 times 4 times 4. 2 times 4 is 8. And then 1 times 4 equals 4. Okay? So now that we've done that, you're going to watch a third video that's going to tell you my expectations for your packet.